The day I learned my son had secretly sold his kidney, I thought he did it to save me, but the truth destroyed everything I believed about our family. I never imagined the hardest day of my life would begin with a phone call at 6:17 on a cold Monday morning. "Mr. Carter?" the nurse asked, gently. "Your latest test results are back. You need to come to the hospital today." I already knew what she was going to say. For 2 years, my kidneys had been failing, 3 days a week. I sat in a dialysis chair, watching my life disappear 1 hour at a time. Every treatment left me weaker. Every doctor gave me the same answer: without a transplant, you don't have much time. I was 56 years old, a widower, and the only thing keeping me alive was my 23-year-old son, Ethan. He never complained. He drove me to every appointment, cooked dinner after working 12-hour construction shifts, and somehow still smiled every evening. "Dad," he always said, "we're going to beat this." I wanted to believe him, but hope had become expensive, even with insurance. The medical bills were crushing us. We had already sold my truck, emptied my retirement savings, and borrowed money from relatives. There was nothing left. One Friday night, I woke up and noticed Ethan wasn't home. It was almost 2 in the morning. I called him 3 times. No answer. When he finally walked through the front door at sunrise, he looked pale. His face was sweaty. He walked carefully, almost like every step hurt. "Where were you?" I asked. He forced a smile. "Just helping a friend move." Something felt wrong. A week later, I found a thick envelope hidden inside his bedroom drawer. It wasn't a letter. It was a hospital discharge summary. The words at the top froze my blood. "Living kidney donor surgery." The surgery had taken place just 6 days earlier. My hands started shaking. Ethan had donated a kidney, but not to me. Ando Sameho. Someone had paid him $250,000 for it. I stared at the papers in disbelief, unable to breathe. If he hadn't done it to save my life, then whose life had my son been willing to risk his own for? My heart pounded as I stared at the discharge papers. There had to be a mistake. Selling an organ was illegal. Ethan would never do something like that. Would he? I quickly folded the documents and slipped them back into the drawer just before I heard his footsteps coming down the hallway. "Dad? You okay?" I forced a smile. Yeah, just looking for an old photo." He nodded, but I noticed the pain in his eyes as he lowered himself onto the couch. Every movement looked uncomfortable. He was still recovering. That night, I couldn't sleep. Questions raced through my mind. Who had received his kidney? Where had the money come from? And why had he hidden everything from me? The next morning, I secretly drove to the hospital, listed on the discharge papers. The receptionist politely smiled. "I'm sorry, sir. We can't discuss another patient's medical records." "I understand," I said quietly. "He's my son." She shook her head. "Federal privacy laws prevent us from sharing anything." I walked out feeling more helpless than ever. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my bank. $180,000 had been deposited into my account. I froze. There was no sender's name, only one message. "For Richard Carter's transplant expenses, don't try to find me." My hands trembled. It had to be him. He had somehow found a fortune just to save my life. Tears blurred my vision. I drove home, determined to confront him. But when I opened the front door, the house was silent. "Ethan." I called. No answer. No answer. Then I noticed a folded piece of paper sitting on the kitchen table. It was addressed to me. "Dad, if you're reading this, I'm sorry I lied, but I had no other choice." My chest tightened as I unfolded the letter. The first sentence shattered my heart. "I'm not the one who made the decision. Mom did." before she died. I stopped breathing. My wife had been gone for 12 years, so how could she possibly have anything to do with what Ethan had just done? My hands shook so badly, I could barely hold the letter. I read the first sentence again. Mom made the decision before she died. It didn't make any sense. Emily had lost her battle with cancer 12 years earlier. Before she passed away, she made me promise that I'd take care of Ethan no matter what. So what decision could she have made? I kept reading. Death. A week before Mom died, she gave me a sealed envelope. She told me never to open it unless your life depended on it. Last month, when your doctor said you were running out of time, I finally opened it. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. Inside the envelope, Emily had written a single request. If your father ever needs a transplant and there is no other way to save him, don't let him sacrifice himself for you. Do whatever it takes to keep him alive. Tears rolled down my face. She had known me too well. I would have refused any help if it meant ruining Ethan's future. The letter continued. Dad, I tried everything. I applied for loans. I sold my truck. I worked double shifts. It still wasn't enough. Then someone approached me with an offer that could save your life. I clenched the paper. The offer? The money, the surgery. Everything suddenly fit together. But one paragraph made my blood run cold. I never wanted the money for myself. Every dollar went into your transplant fund. I knew the risk, but I couldn't lose both of my parents. My bijon. Burado. I wasn't just reading a confession. I was reading the story of my son's sacrifice. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Mr. Carter? A woman's voice asked. Yes. This is Mercy General Hospital. My stomach dropped. Your son, Ethan. He collapsed this morning. For a moment, the world went completely silent. Then the doctor spoke the words. Every parent fears. You need to get here immediately. He's asking for you, and we're not sure how much time he has left. I don't remember how I got to the hospital. I only remember running. The automatic doors flew open as I rushed inside, my heart pounding harder than it ever had before. A nurse met me in the hallway. Mr. Carter. I nodded, unable to speak. Your son lost consciousness because of internal bleeding after surgery. We've stabilized him, but he's very weak. The words hit me like a freight train. This shouldn't have happened, she continued. He left the hospital too early and ignored every follow-up appointment. I already knew why. He had been too busy taking care of me. The nurse led me into Ethan's room. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. His skin was pale. Machines beeped steadily beside his bed. When he opened his eyes and saw me, he gave me the same weak smile he had given me every day for the past 2 years. Heidi. Eddie. I grabbed his hand and couldn't stop the tears. Why? I whispered. Why would you do this? He looked at me quietly before answering. Because I already lost Mom. His voice cracked. I couldn't lose you too. I buried my face in his hand. Overwhelmed with guilt, I would rather have died than let you risk your life. He shook his head. No, Dad. If you had died, I would have spent the rest of my life wondering if I could have saved you. The room fell silent. Then Ethan reached beneath his pillow and handed me another envelope. Mom wanted you to have this, but only if we both made it through. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. From Emily. The last line stole every breath from my lungs. Richardo, if you're reading this, it means our son has become the kind of man we always prayed he would be. Now it's your turn to save him. I read Emily's last sentence over and over. The truth you've hidden from him his entire life. Ethan looked at me with confusion. Dove. What? Truth. For 12 years, I had carried a secret. I promised I would never reveal, but Emily was right. The time had finally come. I pulled a chair beside his bed and took a deep breath. Sung. When your mom and I got married, you were only 2 years old. His eyes widened. I continued, my voice trembling. I'm not your biological father. Silence filled the room. I met your mother after your birth. Father abandoned both of you. He disappeared without looking back. But the first time you called me Dad, I knew I already loved you. Like my own son. Tears rolled down Ethan's face. I wanted to adopt you. But your mother was afraid your biological father would come back one day. She asked me to wait. I lowered my head. That day never came, and I never cared whose blood ran through your veins. To me, you have always been my son. Ethan stared at me for several seconds before pulling out a worn photograph from his wallet. It showed the 3 of us at the beach when he was 6 years old. You know why I always carry this picture? He asked. I shook my head. Because this is the day I decided that being a father has nothing to do with DNA. He reached for my hand. The man who left us gave me his blood. But the man sitting beside me gave me my life. Neither of us could stop crying. A month later, a miracle happened. A donor kidney became available, and my transplant surgery was successful. As I recovered, Ethan stood beside my hospital bed every single day. This time, I was the one promising him that everything would be okay. Months later, we started a non-profit in Emily's memory to help families struggling with transplant costs, ensuring no one would ever feel forced to make the impossible choice Ethan had made. Because family isn't built by blood, it's built by sacrifice, loyalty, and unconditional love. And sometimes, the person who chooses to stay is the one who truly deserves to be called Dad.